come across and to be a part of what you're doing through Epiphany Station. From those who were given the original vision to those that have come into the lifeblood of the church and are directing it and steering it. We just thank you that we're a church that has you at the helm and that we can just submit to you and your desire. So we just ask as we run this conversation and this celebration this afternoon that we would keep in mind just who you are and what we're here to do for you and our specific vision for Epiphany. And just as we share what is to come, I just ask you to ignite us all in excitement for reaching this city and reaching another. We just pray that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Well, thanks for coming out, everybody, this afternoon. We are just happy to once again let you know that the state of the station is fantastic. And so, yeah, and that is, thank you. Would anybody else like some coffee? Megan's getting it. I want to start off by just explaining a little bit about how our leadership is structured and then give our leaders an opportunity to introduce themselves. But we have kind of a two-tier leadership structure here at Epiphany Station. We have our staff and we have what we call our overseers or oversight team. And so the overseer's really job is to set the boundaries, to say, hey, these are the financial boundaries, these are the moral, ethical boundaries, these are the theological boundaries. And then the staff gets to go play anywhere in the field inside those boundaries. And so the staff really leads the day-to-day operations of the church, and the overseers really oversee that and make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do and doing it as well as we can to accomplish our mission. So Tim Vidstein here is one of our overseers. So Tim, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Tim, and if you didn't know already, I suppose I've been on an OT for about 5 or 6 years. And it's been fun to watch things grow from 50 to 300. So the best part about this job is seeing God at work.
Amen.
I'm Kevin Brown. As I look out here, I think I'm one of about 5 people that were probably at the very first meeting we ever had in our living room. And so from the get-go of 16 people to where we are now. There's others that, like Dale isn't here right now. He's on a well-deserved vacation with his wife Tammy on the sunny beaches of Miami, Florida. And Dale's been with us from the beginning, and when I get into the financials, I wouldn't know what I'm talking about if he hadn't been keeping track of that. So he's our other key overseer. And then Darren's also on a much-deserved vacation. Is he in Hawaii or California? And I'll be honest with you, it's very much not typical that, usually the best we can do is Cleveland or something like that. But you just caught us on a really good week. So, and because of our schedules, we tried either side of this date, but something about a chili bowl next week, pretty big deal. So we just stuck to this is when we're having it, whether you're here or not. So.
All right, so thank you, Kevin. And then I'm Jeff, I assume most of you know. And Maddie, you want to introduce the rest of the staff?
Sure. So this is Jeff, and I'm Maddie. I'm another one of the pastors here, and Jeff and I at this point are leading the church as far as on the pastoral role, and then we have Millie over here. We'll talk a little bit more about Millie. Millie gets her own subsection because she's so cool. And then back in the sound booth, another one of our staff is Wyatt up there, that handsome dude in black. And then our most recent acquisition is Mary, who is overseeing our children's ministry right now. We also have another role. It's a stipended position, which means that we give him very little and he does a ridiculous amount of work for it. And that's Nolan up in the back there. I mean, we give him adequate amount. I mean, it's more than he. Yep.
And so most of us have some roles up front that a lot of you see a lot, but Nolan does all the videos and graphics that you see here at Epiphany Station. So does a great job with that stuff, top notch. So what I want to do today, hopefully you've all got several handouts on your table. This is sort of the agenda, and even though it says weekend worship experience, that's the agenda, and then there's also 2 financial reports on your table when we get to the finances. So one of the things we like to do right off the bat is something that we do every week in our staff meeting and in our OT meetings as well, is we call it celebrating the wins. And so like our staff meetings, we always end by celebrating wins. Like what has God done this week to confirm that we are accomplishing our mission, what we set out to do. And so we want to just start our meeting today by celebrating some wins. So first off, and most importantly, this past year, which actually is only the past 6 months because we found out that the way that we were tracking it was not working right. So in the past 6 months, we've had 11 people that have made first-time commitments to Christ, given their lives to Christ.
Something we did differently this year in how we celebrated baptism and child dedications was we did Life Fest events, these amazing opportunities for us to gather together around those people making that commitment. We had 2 Life Fest events in 2015, well, 1 in 15 and 1 just this month. And in between those, we had 18 people who were for the first time giving their lives to Christ, baptized in that name.
Also this year, we averaged 240 in attendance, which also seems quite low. We also had trouble tracking attendance this year for some reason with our system, but 240 in average attendance according to that. And then we had a couple of big events this past year, which we had great attendance at. So, Matt, you want to talk about those?
Certainly. As if any of you were at the Easter event, you will have noticed that we didn't let the fire marshal in because I don't think that we were up to code with how many people we tried to jam in that Imperial room. But there were over 500 people in the Imperial room, plus 100 kids on the arena floor for the Creation Station experience. And then at the park that we hosted this weekend, we had 399 people come and worship with us out there. So just... Apparently, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, just 2 huge events, and then there's no real way to also, I guess, take the metrics for just the celebration and just how great a job everybody did for the parade. But the parade was also just an amazing thing that you guys did to reach out and to show our community that we generously care about them and their welfare. So just amongst those 3 things, just a great outpouring and showing of what it looks like to do church and to be welcome to church. So well done.
So next we'll get the boring stuff out of the way. And actually, I love this stuff as a former accountant. I love numbers, but Kevin's going to walk us through the numbers, and then we'll have an opportunity if you want to ask questions about those numbers.
Okay, so here's the numbers. Actually, be looking at the 3-year profit and loss summary. Normally, we don't go back this far, but I very recently had to compile this for some discussions we're having with Cornerstone. So great, let's share the whole thing. And what this shows in probably as neat a fashion as we ever have is it basically shows the incoming tithes and offerings, special designations, and then the categories of expenses that are part of our normal operating budget throughout the year. And what's not included is various fund transfers that are going back and forth. It's just the budgeted items and incoming and the expenses that go out. So in a general sense, you can see 2013, 14, 15, the total income has gone, 247,000, 296,000, 298,000. And then our expenses have been less than that in most cases, and we technically show a net income. Well, we're not in this to show a net income, but in many cases, that money is in a fund waiting to be spent somewhere else. And, our budget will hopefully reflect as much ministry as we think we can accomplish in a given year. So the other sheet shows what our 2016 budget is. And we've kind of broken it out into categories to kind of, focus it more on the objectives of what we're accomplishing. And it doesn't change much from what our 2015 budget was. There's just some tweaks here and there. But you can see the numbers, and overall it represents a very modest 2.38% increase over our 2015 budget. And our needed per week is, we actually need $5,382 a week to do the general operation of the church here. And that covers everything from the staff, the mortgage, the utilities, office support, coffee, snacks. We like to invest in the next generation, so children's and kids ministry. And like Jeff mentioned this morning, we've always set aside 5% for church planting and really another 6% for missions and benevolence. So we continually basically are taking 11% of whatever our income is and setting that aside to go back out, and then we operate on the other 89%. Any questions?
I will come out to you with the mic if you have a question. Just tell me which direction to go.
So another thing worth mentioning is really hats off to Dale and to Shirley, who pays the bills and enters this stuff in QuickBooks. Yeah. Because without that part, there's no way I could have put this together for you. This has been a complicated thing from the inception. When you came to church, there was a little black box on a dresser that you put your money in, and we just made a weekly deposit at Northern State Bank, and we had basically one account, and everything was simple. Well, now we went from there to Wells Fargo, and now we're at Border State, and there's reasons for doing those switches. And I think there's a reason for reevaluating being at Border right now. But so you've got that. We've had about 4 or 5 different treasurers along the way. And we've had 2 financial secretaries. That's the person doing it. So the other person to really say kudos to is Andrea Pog. And probably most of the time Megan, who helps her count. Because we always have 2 people count. So weekly routine, they have to go through the red box and collate the checks and cash and pennies. And next door doing it right now. Okay. And who's with her? Because it's not Megan. Then on top of that, you can give online now. We've got the Square Reader. You can do it directly through our website. So you've got money flowing from different things, and then to do the Alexio thing, you have to have money in an account, and it's just a much more complicated thing. But because Dale's been vigilant about getting us set up with QuickBooks, and that stuff gets entered now, we have a real good accounting for it. We need to do a better job of how we manage all these funds and stuff. You know, we had money that was going to the church in Brainerd for our church planting fund. And then how many months did it take us to get them to actually send us a check for it? Several months. So, but anyway, it's set up in a really nice way now, and you know, can generate a report like this. And the hope moving forward is to do a better job of this, you know, in the future of, you know, reporting this kind of thing. But it does show, you know, the big picture view does show kind of a steady kind of, you know, snapshot view of how we've grown and evolved as a church financially. I know when we first moved into and bought this building through our sophisticated method of the black box, we had $26,000 to invest and put down to buy this crappy old gas station and warehouse. So we've come a little way since then.
All right, I'm here with Dale Anderson, and he has a question.
I was just wondering, what is our mortgage? What do we owe in all our mortgages?
Boy, I'd love to have Dale here for that one. We have two loans. We have the original loan on the station, and then we have a loan on when we bought the bread store. I think the original loan is like $45,000, and then I think you know, I don't even know what the bread store one is. I know the reason that they're two mortgages versus one is the disparity in the interest rate when we came in the second time. It was more advantageous to just keep them separate like that.
I think it's right around $100,000 for both loans combined.
Yeah, I think so. So
the house we paid cash for.
Yeah,
so
the house we paid cash for, and then on the bread store, we also have about $15,000 in a fund that we can still draw against for facility stuff. That was part of that original loan, and we've drawn against that one time now to pay an architect, which later in the show we'll talk about what we got for that.
All right, anybody else have a question?
I don't know if this is just a rumor, but I heard that we're tearing the station down in the spring. Is that true?
That is a question we will answer later on.
So stay on the edge of your seat.
So, if anybody has a financial question about the budget stuff.
I'm just kind of curious how much of our weekly tithe or the money coming in comes in via Square or online versus like a check. Do you guys track that at all?
1/5.
1/5 is what?
Comes in online.
Okay.
Comes in online or Square.
Great question. Wow, it was wonderful, wonderful answer. All right, anybody else? Coming your way, Jim.
I just had a question on the 2016 budget. There's one that for our experience, it looks like we had a big. We're lopping off about between a quarter and a third for that. How's that going to affect our weekly experiences?
I can answer that if you want, Kevin, but if you know the answer, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say it's primarily reflected in the difference of a full-time salary for Ben, who's not here anymore.
Yeah, so Ben was full-time worship pastor, and Wyatt is part-time, and so that's the big difference there.
It's just a bookkeeping thing. There's two columns here that aren't titled. The top is the underlined bold column 2016 and the far right column 2015. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
They weren't labeled, so I was just clarifying.
Everybody got that? You can label yours now. Good. Any other questions on the financials? All right, let's move on. Am I next? Okay. Next on the agenda is just to update you guys a little bit on what I've been up to the past 6 months, what I'm going to be up to the next 6 months, and kind of where we are with things. So, a lot of you know I took a sabbatical this past summer, which was really great, and I really, really appreciate so much. Since coming back then, kind of came back in a new role as more beside Maddie. Maddie and I kind of co-leading together. So for the past 6 months, been doing a lot of that, just kind of helping guide Maddie along and all things church and leadership and everything, making sure that he's good to go for when I leave, that he knows what we're doing and how we're doing it and all of those things. And so, but mostly he's making a lot of the decisions, and I'm just there to be a sounding board for him. I've also been spending a lot of time heading up a big project that we're working on, which you'll find out more about in the coming weeks, and then giving direction to kind of the big picture, continuing to give direction, vision to where we're going here in the future, and preaching occasionally, and then doing a lot of networking and fundraising and things for the Grand Forks church plant. Like last week, I preached at a church. Actually, the church I was pastor at before coming to Epiphany Station, and shared the vision for Grand Forks there. So, in the next 6 months, we'll be wrapping up this project that we're working on, making sure that everything here is good to go, so that when I leave, we don't skip a beat and we just keep on moving on. And my last day here at Epiphany Station right now is scheduled to be May 1st. So on May 1st, that will be my last Sunday here, and then I will be moving. Our family will be moving to Grand Forks in June to live, I guess. So we'll take staffing questions kind of at the end of everybody, after everybody shares here.
All right, next is me. Just to kind of let people know, I guess, kind of the difference that has been since the summer. So if you weren't here last summer, Jeff took the summer to take sabbatical and to get rest and retreat to fire up the vision, and that left me in his role. And things pretty much stayed the same. Kind of when he got back, we deemed it a success, that it went okay, and that he was able to come back with objective insight into what I needed to do to continue in that role. So the last 6 months has been leading the development of the teachings. Jeff and I have shared that a little bit, and I'm kind of doing all of that from this point forward of the development of the series and the individual teachings. That's my number one job here. My number two is leading the staff. So getting our staff trained, equipped, prepared, and in their roles, that we can find the best for them and put them in the place of most impact. And then really it's been spending a lot of time getting myself ready. Not being so naive as to assume that I can do everything that Jeff does. A lot of time has been spent in coaching, in training, in education, reaching outside of the church to other lead pastors and doing coaching training sessions with them to kind of develop and get ready. And that's going to continue because that is something that's going to have to always continue, is always assuming that I'm not the best that you can have, but always that I can be getting better. So the next 6 months looks like preparing us for Portable Church, which you'll find out a little bit more later on, overseeing the building project, all that's kind of comes on top of teaching, development, and staff, but then also engaging in formal education in the fall, in which I am in conversations with Bethel University, where some good graduates come from, to actually start my Christian ministries education towards the direction of seminary, and working on that to its completion. I think that's everything.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that Maddie is really, he's leading on a daily basis, and I'm just there to be a sounding board, really. I'm functioning more really as an overseer, kind of, helping establish the boundaries, and he's doing all the real leadership stuff. I just kind of sit around and drink coffee most of the time.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that. It seems so final, Jeff's last day, May 1st, moving in June. It's not like we're cutting the umbilical cord. there's going to be a connection long term. Maddie and the staff that we have in place are supremely capable of leading the day-to-day operation of Epiphany Station. We did during the summer, and for the most part of late, it's been like that. But Jeff's vision for church planting and church growth was really well reflected in his message today. I think very powerful, and part of what makes Epiphany Station Epiphany Station to this point and going forward is sustaining that mind towards church planting. And we will continue to be a part of a church planting network in the Red River Valley. Jeff will be the hub of that. And that success is going to speak to Epiphany Station's long-range success as well. So there will be that kind of tie, but Jeff obviously can't be making every day-to-day decision here, and it's time to pass that baton. But it wasn't just a rah-rah speech, what Jeff preached about today in terms of church planting. It's essential to our success and well-being, and it's what makes Epiphany Station, is we're outsider focused, and we'll be whatever we'll be in this community, but what's going to make us who we need to be is that continued passion for reaching others outside of just these four walls and even this community.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. And I should add too, I should have said this at the beginning, that Maddie and I are like 3/4 of the way through a 2-year intentional succession process. And so we started this back in, what year are we in, 2016? So September of 2014, we actually started this transition plan, this succession plan, announced it to you guys publicly last January, so a year ago. And so we'll in May, we'll have completed this process. And so it's been it may seem kind of sudden to some, but it's been 2 years of very intentional things that we're working on, very intentional on creating a successful transition between the two of us. All right, Millie?
I'm talking about
Oh,
Millie.
you're going to talk about Millie?
Yeah.
Oh, let's all talk about Millie.
So, what do you think about her? She's a keeper. We just wanted to update you on Millie's role at the church, as it has changed dramatically as of January 1st, and we kind of put that in the newsletter, but just to clarify all that. So what Millie's role in the past has been, she came on as our administrator, and we have this tendency to bring on administrators who should not be in administration, but should be in frontline ministry.
Not because they're not good at administration.
No.
Because they're good at other things.
Right. So, we've had a history of that just in our last two administrators of Gretchen and now Millie, in that they basically show themselves to be ministers of the word, and then it's our job to find the right role for them to be in. So as she stepped into administration, it was clear that was not her destination, but she was just to be geared towards other things. So we started out with steering her towards recovery ministry, which is really her heart and passion. And those of you that have been a part of Celebrate Recovery or Mending the Soul know that. So for her abilities and her giftings and her passions, as Jeff kind of talked about today, our calling is our gifts plus our burdens. Recovery is probably Millie's number one. So she's launched Celebrate Recovery this last fall, and has been Mending the Soul groups, which is groups to heal from abuse of all kinds. So that has been her role up until January 1st. And then what we were hoping we would get to do, and what we decided to do, is we've always wanted to bring Millie. We've always wanted to bring Millie full-time. We've always wanted to give her as much resource and as much ability to minister as possible, because we're very lucky to have her here. So what we have done is we've created a new role around her skills and talents and giftings, and that role is the head of connections. The names may seem a little bit weird, and Millie doesn't like it, but it really speaks to what she does and what she's good at. She's exceptional at connecting people to what they need. Whether it is connecting people into volunteering, into positions and roles like she did with Celebrate Recovery when it kicked off with like 23 volunteers, or whether she's good at connecting people into small groups and communities, or connecting them to the Word, or connecting them to prayer. It's just basically what her gift is. So as she's head of connections, she now oversees 4 major areas: that of recovery, our small groups, which is our GPS groups, volunteers, and then generally she is much better than I at communication, at being able to make sure we get the right information out to the right people at the right time. So she really takes a role in that as well. So in that, she is full-time, and she is, from this point forward, and as long as we get to keep her, going to have a lot more leadership and a lot more of a role in the overall steering of the church and the overall direction that we're going to take. And as we've all experienced thus far, her ability to teach is also one of her great gifts, and just being able to bring that to the table, another perspective, is going to serve us very well.
Amen. I would just add to that, and then we'll take some questions. But Millie and then Mary actually was our 12th internal hire here at Epiphany Station, and I'm pretty proud of that. We have never hired anybody from the outside. Not to say that we won't, but otherwise everybody else has come from within, because we really believe strongly in finding the right people, getting them, and then finding the right seat for them on the bus, so to speak. And so we want to build into people and build around what they are gifted and called to do. And so that's kind of our philosophy when it comes to staffing and how we do things. And sometimes we miss, a lot of times we hit, and when we hit big with people like Maddie and Millie and Mary and Wyatt, all people that have come from the inside. So it's just a great honor, privilege to be part of a team that just really believes, I think, in helping people discover their giftedness and calling and nurturing and equipping in that way. So are there any questions about staffing things that we talked about? Certainly somebody has a question. Just always take that first one.
I have a comment, not a question.
I just wanted to say that Millie and Mary are excellent leaders of the Men in this Soul group.
Amen. I'm not a part of that group, but I know they do a great job because they are great leaders, whatever they do. Any questions or other comments? Anybody else want to say anything nice about Millie or Mary?
All I've got to say about that is I'm Mary's dad.
Nicely done.
But what do you really think about her? Come on. All right. Any questions?
I guess I probably know the answer to this, but is there someone going to replace a role for Jeff? Is there another minister coming in or anything? Is there going to be some more ministerial staff at some point, or what?
Yeah, that's a great question. Should I answer it? Okay. Yeah, we're constantly evaluating. Maddie and I have been evaluating our staff and what our needs are and everything. So that is definitely something that we are looking at. As far as bringing in another person. But we're trying to, rather than just add somebody in, we're trying to evaluate kind of our overall needs and how we might have to move things around to best minister, I guess, and best continue to move the ball down the field.
Also, I have a question. It seems like it's kind of been forgotten about a little bit about the covenant partnership. My wife and I are covenant partners, and I guess I had some question about how that's all going to fit in.
Another great question. We really dropped the ball on that this year, Ted. Last year we received our first covenant partners, which is kind of our form of membership, and we just really dropped the ball on it, to be honest. Just there's so many things going on that we did not give that the attention that it needed. So I'm very sorry for that, and we're going to do better this year, 2016, with that. Does that answer your question adequately?
So if I could just speak to maybe both those a little bit. We definitely have every intention of doing a better job of clarifying the covenant partnership relationship, having more intentional communication and engagement about it. It just comes down to really, with all the other transition stuff, that's just one thing that we just didn't really get to this year, trying to manage the different things. The other thing on staffing, just so you know, this stuff that we're evaluating and analyzing behind the scenes all the time. We are associated with the Minnesota Iowa Baptist Conference, or Converge, or whatever they call
Converge
themselves.
North Central.
Converge North Central. Yeah, I'm at least 2 name changes behind there. But there's some very wise people that are mentors and advisors to Jeff and I and Maddie, and Tim goes way back with some of these people as well. So there's internal and external people that we're evaluating for potential leadership roles all the time. And like Jeff said, if we can organically grow from within, that's almost always our first choice, because there's less risk in them understanding the DNA and what we're all about and all that. But we've looked at some other people outside, and we have discussions like that all the time. So I just wanted to add that.
All right. One last question about staffing before we move on. All right, well, let's move on then.
I was just going to add one thing, that it has been very interesting in the last 6 months as I've kind of stepped into this role of the lead role, that a lot of people are asking the question of how we do things and the way that we do things, and that was a large part of why we wanted to do the DNA series. But as far as how we make decisions around here, especially the big decisions, I don't know if everybody understands the amount of time, effort, and work that the overseers put into their role. They don't meet once a month, we meet once a week. We meet every single week to discuss and to develop and to seek God on what we're doing. So when we talk about the overseers really do oversee, and they really do lead the boundaries of the church, we mean that in a very strategic and intentional way. Of every single week we get together, and every single week we share the day-to-day with them, and we basically have that kind of connection. And I just wanted to kind of address that as maybe people feel like as in the future, as we do have so many wise people in our overseers, that their wisdom is constantly being poured out into the staff, constantly being poured out to the leadership, and we benefit massively from that, much more than we would if we did just meet once a month, or they were just given a title that didn't mean anything. So I guess I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, and that reminds me that, Kevin had said that Dale and Darren were both on vacation. Kevin actually canceled his vacation to be here for this. So that's the kind of dedication that he has. So.
And so did Heather, yeah.
Also, I don't know if I could be so bold as to say this, but I will. We're always looking for qualified leaders for our oversight team as well. So if you know someone that you think is a godly leader and you want to recommend somebody, we would love to, not like right now on the floor, but you recommend, you have a name, you're like, hey, I think this person would be a great addition to the oversight team. We would love to hear that and take that under advisement. All right, Kevin Brown.
Suzanne, are you still on the edge of your seat? Can you put the first slide up? Okay, so the rumor is true. The plan is to remove the existing warehouse and the bread store and build a single facility. Go ahead and scroll through. Okay, let's just leave it right there. So on the left is the floor plan for the main level. It retains the front station and look and feel.
Front station right here.
And then the building behind it, there you go, is as big as humanly possible under the city codes that require X amount of spaces for parking. It's not the ultimate long-range solution, but like I said, it gets us as big as we can get in this step. About a year ago, we presented a plan to join this with that, and I think in really responding to the feedback that we had, we decided that wasn't enough. We went back to the drawing board, and this is what we've come up with. In total, that gives us 9,640 total square feet. Right now, in the building we're in now, we're operating in 3,240 square feet. So it's over 2.5 times what we're operating in right now. And the single level, the top portion you see there is the worship space. Ah, the red pointer. That is set up to accommodate 220 plus seats for worship capacity, which is about double what this is. And it has overflow seating capacity quite easily to go up to 299 and not one person more, because that would trigger the requirement to have a sprinkler system in the whole building, which would be another probably $25,000, $30,000. So at some point, you know, we're going to have to bite the bullet on that, but if we can get this phase done without it, that's the goal. The other thing so what it'll do is it'll take the main station space out there, entry and fellowship space, and then the stuff on the right will be a nursery with that one kind of decent bathroom being right off the nursery. Then we've got a classroom right off that could be also for children's. Then what's overflow seating in that can be partitioned and made into classrooms, you know, in a flexible way depending on what our needs are. It'll have proper, I love how Jeff puts that in these other documents, proper restrooms. For those of you who've ever been to the men's room. And then a legitimate kitchen with a serving area and stuff like that. So we could actually like really do business that way. And then there's a mezzanine level above that legally is just storage and extra space. But there's 2,200 square feet of capacity there to make it more than just storage. And then that's where the AV stuff would be, on a balcony overlooking. So that's kind of the floor plan look. Then if we maybe go through the next few slides, we have some renderings that give you a feel for sort of the magnitude. Front view, other corner view, northeast. This would be from the stage kind of looking back up into the mezzanine. Cutaway view from the roof. And then here we cut half the walls down. And it's this is probably the most illustrative picture we have. And it kind of shows what's in each of these spaces. And for the first time ever, we would have an official vestibule. And I don't know what a vestibule is, but every architect we've ever talked to wants us to have a vestibule.
Consider it a windbreak in January.
I think airlock entry, but church lingo is vestibule. you know, I've said this before. This is not going to be the Crystal Cathedral Taj Mahal. It's a simple steel structure. We're going to keep it modest. Some of these drawings might make it look better than it really is. But, you know, we want to be as cost conscious as we can. And, you know, we want a floor that you can spill coffee on. I think that's one of the requirements. So, another key person that's going to make this happen is Wayne Kilgore.
Yeah.
Wayne's been extremely instrumental in taking stuff from the architect and then, you know, kind of putting that into reality terms of, you know, pouring a foundation, footings, all these technical details about that. Him and his son has really kind of taken the ball now and is running with specifically talking to contractors to put together a full-blown demo plan and construction plan in as short a period of time as possible and get that stuff scheduled. And we don't have, you know, exact prices for everything yet, so there's no point speculating about that. But in the very near weeks to come, we will have stuff like that to talk about, and we have a plan for how we're going to address that too. So kudos to Wayne. He's going to be running point on this. And the architect that we've used is a guy out of Bemidji who isn't as cheap as the first guy we had, but he does a terrific job. We'll have you know, more photos of this stuff. We've got some videos we can show, and that's where we're at on the building. And you know, right now we would hope to have things in place to go portable at a specific point in time. We'd go portable, and then we'd move back in, and we'd be ready to rock and roll again. Questions?
Probably no questions.
Probably
about
none.
Does portable mean that we meet somewhere else? Like we should?
Hang on, Suzanne. I'm getting there.
I have several questions. One, then in that case, what's the orientation? Where is 4th Street? And I don't get the picture of where all the parking is.
So 4th would be along here, and this is Main. So this is the current house that our offices reside in, and the parking that is required will be found here, 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 and here. And that's the number that we need.
So the canopy that we all know and love so much will come down.
Oh.
I'm sorry to say.
Does that answer that question, Suzanne?
Yes, thanks.
Okay.
By being portable, does that mean we'll meet in another building while we're being torn down?
Yes. I'm very excited about our portable options, and it's something that we've been working on for quite a few months. When we first gave the option of what we wanted to do, I think last January, someone came to the office and said, "That's ridiculous, that's not enough, you need to do more, and I can help." And that person was Jeff Lund. He kicked in the door and everything. It's very aggressive. But Jeff and Stacy own Falls Cinema, and they have offered for us to be able to use that in the time that we're going to need to be a portable church. So what we have the great, yeah. So we actually have an amazing opportunity to not need to pour out a bunch of money to meet in someone else's space, but to actually have it offered from the inside. Again, just God's provision, really, for what we're trying to do here. And what that gives us is actually an opportunity to grow during this season, to do something really cool by doing church in a theater, which is an up-and-coming thing in church plants, and is what our sister church, Ignite, actually does in the Safari Theater in Moorhead. So actually we took a team back in December. We took a team down to Ignite, and we actually went through the process of how they set things up. We took people from hospitality, from children's, from worship, from tech, from every area. We went down and we got a good idea of how they do things. so that we can model that over here. So we've been working on it for months to get it ready, and we're very excited that possibly in very early April is when we'll start doing that.
All right, we got a question here from Caleb.
Hi, Caleb. Nobody look at him.
Where's it good to the station?
He wants to know where Creation Station is going to be.
Very good question, Caleb. Can we get a few of the floor plan, please? So, as you can see, we do have designated out where nursery is going to be, and then this room is going to be an offshoot of that as far as it goes for a cry room, nursing room, etc., during the worship experience. And as this is a flexible drawing, what we're actually looking at is this space here. This space here and the entire upstairs to be the Creation Station space. So there you go.
So the mezzanine level is right over there is 2,200 square feet, as Kevin said. So we can have some classroom up there. Our limit is 30 per fire code, 30 people per fire code. So we can have a classroom up there for kids probably.
And then the rest of it would be over here, and that's something, again, that we're working on developing, and before we decide what we're going to do, again, we're going to go and research it. So actually this coming Saturday, Mary and a few of us are actually going to go down to our parent church, the Journey North, because they just renovated a building and have done an awesome job of doing that. So again, we're really trying to, before we say this is what we're going to do, we're trying to be as wise as possible by going and seeing it done, so then we can make the call of what we want to do with it. So again, it's flexible because right now that's a detail that we're working out. Great question, Caleb.
Yeah, and for some perspective, the warehouse we're sitting in right now is 1,800 square feet versus, the 2,200 plus the downstairs portion.
Millie, you have a question?
And that's all the time we have for questions.
So I asked this last year, and I believe I know the answer, but I'm asking it because I think there's a lot of people that might be wondering and just need clarity. When I look at this picture, I see like a lot of wood and really nice things like windows and stuff like that. So is it going to go from being like we are now to some different, is it going to be a different feel, or are we going to have the same thing where you can come here no matter who you are and not feel like you have to dress up or be different to come to church?
I've said it before, I'll say it again, we're going to keep it crappy. Where it shows windows, there will be windows. So that's not
But we'll make sure they're dirty. We'll keep the windows
dirty. It's not a falsification. But, an architect makes it look like, carpeted floors and it's very plush. It's going to have it's a steel building construction, right, Wayne? So, beams, it's going to be like, the ceiling's going to be kind of open like this. There's some, really nice building materials that can make it look nice and everything. But we're not going gung-ho on any of that. We're going to make it efficient and functional, first and foremost.
I'll say that, Lord willing, we will at least have nicer chairs. Chairs that you can fit both cheeks on will be nice. So.
Yeah, double cheek chairs. Be nice. And then another point I want to make is there will be opportunities for many of you to play a continued role in the finishing of this building. What we don't want to do is get so many people involved that it really inhibits a plan with Wayne and the team that he puts together with contractors. But we're going to get to a point where there are certain things finishing, and I envision us having teams of people that will focus on the specifics of that. The stage, the seating, the kitchen, especially, and the specific finishing touches of every aspect of it. But Wayne's charge is really to put together a team that can put the shell in place and give us something functional to start with. And then, we can save money at every corner the more we can do ourselves. And we have no doubt, people will be eager to jump in and do that, and we're going to welcome that.
All right, great. Another question here.
Just curious, do we have a rough timeline on this from when we can rehabilitate this new building?
Wayne, how rough would that timeline be at this stage?
Well, I just was kind of given that September 1st is what we're shooting for.
For being done.
For being done.
Our plan is for our last Sunday worship experience in this building to be March 20th, the Sunday before Easter. Then we will go to the Ralph for our Easter worship experience, and then the following Sunday we'll meet in the theater. That is the plan for now. Could change.
I think we're talking about the Ralph being on the floor instead of the Imperial Room, so we have more space and we can invite the fire marshal.
I just want to make a comment that Jan and I, we went several times to the Safari Theater in Fargo to Ignite, and that's a pretty good place for, I mean, they do a real good job, so that's probably a good thing to put in. But one question, what are they going to do for the creation station when over there?
Thank you, Ted. We're working on, as Jeff and Stacy have two theaters, is that we will actually host worship in one and creation station in the other, and be able to have two worship experiences. That make sense? Okay.
Yep. Good questions. Anybody else?
Will you be able to salvage the heating and cooling system that is used for this building?
Wayne?
For the most part, it was broken up because the units for this won't be big enough for that, but it is going to be reused for the entryway for your, so it's going to be used.
Yeah, the heating system for this is like total overkill. We've only ever used like half of it, so it's fairly new still. So it'll be integrated into an overall heating cooling system for the whole thing. But
Does anybody remember when we got heat in this building? Who was here for that one? Who was here before we had heat in this building? That's the question. We didn't get heat in this building, I think, till December. Was December of 2008, right? So that was like a big thing when we got heat, just in time.
So that September date includes heat? Nice. I mean, we can be flexible on that, but.
Other questions?
I have a question. Just looking at the picture here with the, I'm long enough, that's fine. I see these big vaulted ceilings, and then you're saying that the area kind of right next to the booth there, there you go. The area on the right side is going to be towards the back. That would be the creation station area.
Mm-hmm.
And ideally there'd be a partition. Is it going to be open on the top between the two?
It's a detail that has been worked out, but the intention would be to close that off.
The entire thing top to bottom.
Dependent.
Soundproof.
Yes, I thought that's where you were leading. But yes, we will need to soundproof that because Mary won't keep them quiet in there. She keeps, like letting them sing and enjoy themselves and have fun. It's not what we're about, Max. Yeah, we will be needing to soundproof that to the best of our ability because kids are crazy. Not mine. Your kids are crazy.
Another, I mentioned before, this is just a phase in a long-range plan. We get this building in place, what I envision the next step being is whoever lives in the house next to the house, we're going to look into...
Watch out.
Watch out. I saw her come in yesterday when I was in Maddie's office, and I thought, don't settle in. And, Well, we know who owns the house. They rent it. We would approach them. You know, I'll be honest, our ultimate goal is going to be to buy the rest of the block. And then, you know, the way this building is configured and laid out, adding on in that direction is the next natural, obvious step for expansion. And that's part of the conversations with the architect was, you know, how do we get, you know, a manageable next phase that we can maybe do and feel some improvement, but then something that it makes sense to easily add on to. So, you know, we're not going to stop until, you know, God says, okay, enough. Just keep planting more churches now. So we're going to do both as long as he keeps guiding us in that direction.
Hey, any other questions? Really? That's it? Well, I wasn't. Okay, Suzanne, we'll give you one more.
I understand that you're not considering a full second floor because you want the sanctuary to be open. So is that why you're just doing the mezzanine? And planning on expanding horizontally?
Yes and yes. The end with the offices and the kitchen and all that, easy to put a second floor there, you know, without much cost. And then just keep flexibility there. And then the long range plan would be to add more on the other side. So what you suspected is kind of what we're thinking. Happy to confirm. Yes.
I have a dumb question. When we're in the theater, will there be popcorn?
That was over to Jeff, I think.
The question is, Kelly, will you be heading up the cleaning team afterwards? And if so, I think the answer is definitely yes. What's the height of the ceiling in the worship space? Millie's question is, what's the height of the ceiling in the worship space?
The side walls is 23 feet.
23 feet.
But then it's going to have a pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's compared to this one being 13.
I have a question here. Could you just give us an update on the funds that have been raised and the plans for paying for it and that kind of thing?
Wow, I can't believe it took that long to get that question. Yeah, we have been working on a plan for that for quite a while, actually. And here's my answer, and you might not like it, but the answer is you will all know everything in 3 weeks. Okay? And
that's that project he's been working on.
In 3 weeks, you will know the plan in much more detail and how we plan to pay for it. So we're not trying to keep anything a secret. We just don't want people getting bits and pieces of the information at different times. We want everybody to have all of the information at the same time. So, can you wait 3 weeks? 3 weeks? All right, good.
Listening to the last question, somebody asked about having something in the second floor, and I think Kevin mentioned it was something about fire code. 30 people in the upper story.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, it's a lot more expensive to have a full second floor because you have to have an elevator.
And above 30 people needs 2 exits, so you need 2 stairways. We only have the one scheduled, so I mean, it's got a lot to do with the fact that as soon as you start putting the second floor in, you're talking about columns coming down into the other set of space that would be more flexible without it. Yeah.
All right. Anybody else have a question?
similarly, like the building we're in now has a defined capacity, and it has a defined on-site parking capacity. Go take a look. I don't think we're ever within that capacity, but we have to have a plan that spells that stuff out. So,
you know, an overlooked part of this plan, I think, is the parking, and how awesome it's going to be to have, like, how many on-site spots are there? 32?
I think 34. So
34 on-site spots. So that's significantly more than we have now. So especially if we're continuing to reach people. I mean, I've actually had people tell me that they stopped coming to our church because there was not enough parking and they had to walk to our lane reason. I know, but it's what people do, and you probably know people like that as well. So it's a pretty big deal. I'm pretty excited about that aspect. Did I see another hand?
It'd be really cool if with all that extra parking, how awesome would it be to have specific visitor spots? Showing people that are coming for the first time how important they are to us.
Yeah, that's a great thought. Millie, you're on the parking team.
right there. Right, the front row ones could be on.
All right. Anton?
Yeah, I'm good. Are all the trees on there and the curbing, I mean, is that set or is that just for aesthetics?
That's what an architect does. I have no idea if those trees actually exist or not. I know the house is legit.
If we do put trees up, we'll kill them, just so it looks really, really nasty and crappy. Nothing pretty, nothing blossoming.
That is most likely like phase 4.
When we've got too much money, we'll put plants in. I like that. When we decide we've just got way too much, we'll just put nice things in that look pretty. Till then, no. You gonna do it? Alright, Kevin's on the planting of trees committee.
Anything else?
And we'll share, we'll share more drawings and details and stuff like that in the weeks to come.
In 3 weeks?
In 3 weeks, yes. In 3 weeks. But we wanted to, I guess, let the cat out of the bag. Because of these rampant rumors that even Suzanne's here.
All right, so we move on. All right, last thing we have on our agenda is to talk about where we are with our church plant, Grand City Station. So, Tim, you haven't said anything yet.
Nope. You see a little list there under Grand City Station. The first thing is what we're doing now. We're meeting Sunday nights at 6 o'clock at the Ember, which is on 3rd Street, a little bit up 3rd Street from Demers. Not too far from the health food store there around the corner. It's a place that we've been using. We're meeting, like I said, every Sunday night at 6.
Well, not quite every Sunday.
No,
but
so
a lot of them.
Like when there's no other reason not to be, we're there. And usually a typical month would be, one night would be kind of like vision, where we want to go and how we want to accomplish it. In the past, we've had a couple of times each month where we're going like a Bible study. And then the 4th Sunday or another Sunday, it would be either a community service or else a prayer walk. Just going around town and identifying people we need to pray for and getting the mindset of being part of the community and looking for ways that we can help. Timeline, like Jeff said, May 1st he'll be going, and I guess Cheryl and I will be kind of going. We'll be going back and forth. Kind of, yeah. But if there's Yeah, it's kind of a commitment.
Anybody else want to kind of go?
We'll be sharing our time through both places. And then when we get probably into the summer months, I'll be specifically working harder on identifying people to help with the plant. There's a list there, a worship leader we haven't found, and someone to lead children, and a treasurer, all the positions that have to be intact for it to function. So we'll be looking at that. And then we're going to be doing this summer probably a little more inviting of people we know in Grand Forks, all of us know, or people who might be interested, and inviting people to come towards the end of that part before we start the launch, which will be September 11th. And of course, in the meantime, we'll be looking for a place to meet. That's always the first question, we're planning a church in Grand Forks. Well, where are you going to meet? Well, we're going to find the people first before we find the building. And so that's a priority. Get a core group. We'd like to have a core of about 100 to start. It's kind of a lofty goal, but who knows what God's going to do. We never would have guessed this was going to happen either. So that's just kind of exciting to see what God will do with Grand City Station.
So yeah, I guess right now we have, I think, 21 adults that are kind of committed to being a part of it. And so we are actively looking for more people. So if you know people in Grand Forks, I've said this before and I can't say it enough, help us get connected with those people in Grand Forks so we can, we want to grow this church kind of naturally, organically as we're leading up to that launch, and so that hopefully we have kind of a snowball effect that we're just reaching the top of our momentum as we hit that launch in September. So that is the plan. Are there any questions about church plan?
Who from here is committed to the team level?
Anyone here on team level? Or above? Hopefully above. Do you want to stand up if you are?
Yeah, you want to stand up if you're... It's a good-looking bunch of people.
And that's what it takes.
So yeah, then we also have some people from, not from Epiphany Station, that are a part of it as well.
Also good-looking people.
Not as good-looking. But... Any questions at all?
I know that part of church planting, you need to have funds to do what you need to do. What's your goal as far as what you need to raise and support? And how far have you gotten on that? How much do you still need?
Well, let's see. My goal actually is $250,000 for this church plant. So that's not all at once. That's over the time of a 3-year period. It takes the average church plant 3 years to become fully self-sufficient. And so that's over that period. Can we do it for less? Absolutely. God can do anything, and God could probably do it with, 10,000 or nothing, whatever. But that's my goal. And so where we are now is I've been sharing with other churches, going around. Epiphany Station is going to be a major player in that, be the parent church for this, like Journey North was for us and for the other churches I mentioned today. And so, but part of that is wrapped up in the plan that we'll be revealing in 3 weeks, really. And then the other part is, you guys gave generously during My Christmas Epiphany, which went towards that. And so, all in all, right now, let's just say, well, so right now I'm at $96,000, I think, is about what I've raised so far of the 250.
Questions?
Is there going to be some sort of a meeting place for you folks, you grand folks, before September comes? Are you going to be doing something somewhere besides the
Yeah, our hope is this summer to do what we would call like preview worship experiences. That's a nice way of saying practice. And so ideally, we would have the location that we're going to be meeting in permanently in September. Ideally, we would have that this summer to be able to do those preview worship services. And so, but we would look at doing like over the course of the summer, 3 or 4 of those, and which would give people just a better preview of what this church is going to be about. It would also help us as a team kind of get used to doing church and figuring out all the kinks before we launch. Did I answer the question adequately?
This might sound like a silly question for Kevin. How much money did you start with when you started Epiphany?
Yeah. Not much.
I don't think it was very much.
Whatever it took to file the legal documents to become an entity, it was a couple $100. And we just started meeting, and we didn't know what we were doing, but we've learned a lot along the way, and that's why we want to really do this right. And you know, there's people like the people that stood up. I don't know all of you, but I know some of you, and I know you bring really valuable things to the table. Think of Dale Hahn here, who was on the city council here, was very involved in, you know, planning and zoning and facility, you know, housing and stuff, and city government. That's a really important asset. You've got people that kind of grew up here, that live there now, you know, like Jason and Erica, and get the, you know, and there's, you know, Rosalie and Sean, you know, kind of came from here, and I think there's going to be an inherent migration of people, you know, that maybe young people that come up here and go through there. But yeah, we want this to be like the, you know, the textbook for how to plant churches right and quickly and efficiently, you know, and leverage every mistake and clueless thing we did along the way to get where we are.
I just want to share something that, and it might be a question you have in your mind, and it might be kind of where your question was coming from, Ted, but one of the questions that you will have and you will wrestle with is does Jeff need that much money? And because a lot of people were here when Epiphany started, and it started with nothing, and it started with a little black box on the dresser. And the difference that we see ourselves at now is Epiphany Station was launched with an idea, and with a code, and with a DNA, and with a vision for what it was going to be. Jeff was instrumental in what that was, and knows what it is, and knows what our churches need to do now, and who we need to be. To set him up in the same way that Epiphany Station was set up when it was launched is basically going to give him half a decade of getting ready, of gathering enough people, of getting things going. The difference is being able to set him up with the money that he's looking for is to allow him and allow Grand City Station to hit the ground running.
Yeah. To not spend 3 years doing what we did, just meeting and persevering and, you know, with modest results, but to, like, you know, compress that into, you know, 9 months, but to be at a place of, let's hit the ground running now.
The vision that he has for that much money is not just a random number pulled out of the sky. It is what is it going to take to get into Grand Forks and to start reaching 15,000 people on the south end that there is no church for, that there is no one there for. So it's a much more dire situation, if you will, of unchurched, unreached, outsider individuals that if we get to do that, he gets to start reaping a harvest right away. He gets to start gathering people together to get on mission and to be here for good right away. rather than waiting for and gathering enough funds to get himself a worship leader, gathering enough funds to get him a children's minister. So it really looks like being able to do what we have here immediately, launching right into it right away. So when that question does come up in your mind of, does he really need that money? Yeah, he does. If we actually want to do the best for the kingdom, if we really want to go over there and kick in the gates of hell in Grand Forks, then that is what it's going to take, and that's what we're going to do.
I also just want to add to that it's misleading to say that Epiphany Station started with nothing. Because when I came here, it was 30 people meeting out there. And the only way that I was able to come here, the only way we were able to finish this building off, was because of the support of other churches who said, we believe specifically in me, and we believe in sending you there. And so the only way I came was I came with financial support from other churches. You know, otherwise, who knows what Epiphany Station would be today. It certainly would not be in the place that it is today without that financial support of other churches. Is that accurate, Kevin?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a two-pronged thing. A credible pastor, because we weren't, and a support plan to staff for anticipated growth.
Any other questions?
Do you have a specific area within Grand Forks that you're looking at, or is it just kind of whatever?
There's one guy that does not need a mic.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're really targeting the south end of Grand Forks, like 32nd and south. That's where the majority of the growth is happening, and so it's just crazy. If you're ever, a lot of people don't ever go past 32nd, because why would you? Because you do all your shopping on 32nd. But sometime, journey on past 32nd Street and just drive around back there. It is ridiculous, the amount of development and growth that is going on there. So that's where we feel called to. We feel like that's the most opportune time. I've actually talked with some other pastors in the area, and they have confirmed that and said yeah, nobody is reaching those people. I mean, maybe some people are, but there's nothing there church-wise. And so if you can imagine, like in that area of South Grand Forks, a community that's probably twice the size of Thief River at least, with no church in that neighborhood. And so that's why we feel drawn to that. We need a space in that location, in that area, so that's something that God's got to do.
What do you know about the zoning laws in Grand Forks here, as far as where you can put churches, adjacent to residential, stuff like that? It's got to be less stringent than it was here.
Well, I don't know about the answer to that question, but I do know this, and this is an item of prayer you guys could pray specifically about. There's a brand new elementary school and a brand new middle school on that south side of Grand Forks. From what I've been told from other pastors, a church has never met in a school in the Grand Forks School District. They've been resistant to that. But one of those schools would be an ideal location on that south side as a center of the community. So something for you guys to just pray specifically about is that God would open up the doors and give us favor with the school district if that is where we should be. As for zoning laws and stuff, I'm going to leave that to Edwin to figure out.
But they do have churches right in the commercial residential zone.
Yeah, because that's like, the law.
Any other questions? Honestly, everyone, Millie's not that out of the loop. She does actually know all this already. She's just baiting and leading with questions so other people don't have to.
This is more on the personal supporting our pastor and his wife's side. With all the work that you're doing, getting things ready, and with the thought of having to move, how can we as your church family come alongside? Are there any tasks that people can do on a day-to-day basis that would relieve that pressure from you so that you can focus on what God's called you to? And is there anything we can do for Heidi to come alongside you and helping you prepare to move your family to Grand Forks. What do you guys need from us?
That's a great question, really. Heidi, do you want to say anything about that? Yeah, honestly, just come to our house, and if you see anything you like, just take it. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is just, yeah, Heidi said, you know, like, help with the kids so that we can focus on those house things that other people can't do. And we need to sell the house. So, prayer or thoughts for that. If you know anybody that's looking for a 5-bedroom, 2.5 bath on an acre in town, let us know. Or let them know.
We have some minor house projects that are needing attention too, if anybody's interested.
Yeah, if you're handy, because I am not. I'm the opposite. Whatever the opposite of handy is what I am. Footy. So, what? Footy. Footy? So, yeah, there are miscellaneous projects that you could come do, and honestly, I'm not going to help you. So that would be a hindrance. So that would be great too.
All right, besides you, Jeff, who else is going to be going to Grand Forks with you as far as leadership roles and stuff like that?
Well, we had some people stand up. Anton, were you in the room when we did?
Yeah, but I'm actually like specific roles they're going to have. You know, heading up Creation Station.
Okay. Yeah. Well, those are the roles we need to figure out. Those, I mean, you know, Tim mentioned, you know, our goal is to have 100 people, but more than that, we need the right people in the right positions. And so we need worship leader, we need that children's ministry leader. Those are key positions that we need. So got some possibilities, options as far as worship leader goes, discussions have nobody having a discussion with about children's ministry yet. So if you know anybody, but not just anybody, obviously, but you know, we really want, of course, to set ourselves up for the best possibility to be successful, because we believe this is such a huge opportunity for the kingdom. So again, that's just something that you guys think to pray for us, to be praying for those kinds of people that we need still for the team. Tim is going, though. Tim's going to be one of our overseers, and Nolan as well. Going to be an overseer, Nolan, right? Okay, great. Any other questions? All right, shall we wrap this thing up? Tim, you have any final comments? Just like your commitment level. All right, that's great. Dale has...
I have a comment. I'd just like to say thank you so much to anybody who has helped with the music. The music is such a blessing to get us in such a mood for worship, and I'm just amazed at how God provides so much talent, and if somebody leaves, somebody else just shows up, and it's just been such a blessing, and I thank everyone who did it.
Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together today. Lord, thank you for everything that you've blessed us with in this past year and before that. And Lord, I just thank you for the work you're doing in people's hearts, drawing them to whatever calling we have for them. And Lord, as we look to the future, very exciting, may we just be a part of your plan and your vision. And may we just, with gung-ho enthusiasm, get on board and do what we can to advance your kingdom and just continue to enjoy the amazing ride that you have for us while we're here on earth. Help us stay focused on your kingdom, not ours, and help us just trust you every step of the way for the results and the details. And Lord, I just thank you for the lives that have been changed and are being transformed through Epiphany Station and what's to come with Genesee Station. Lord, just give us a hedge of protection against the evil one who would like to knock us off course on this, and protect our families, and just bless each and every person who's been a part of this, is a part of this, and will be a part of this. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you for all that you do and all that you give to make Epiphany Station what it is. So we really appreciate you as well.